Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kate Daly Show. So glad that you're joining me. And even just for a few minutes, I'm just happy to have you. In fact, you can always catch the Kate Daly Show wherever you are, even if it's not live on the air where you are. You can actually go to katedalyradio.com and you can click the Listen Live button at the top of the homepage. You can listen into this to the live on the air radio show anytime you want. Well, not anytime you want. It's live at a specific time for a reason, which is 5 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern. And so if you're on your phone or a computer, go ahead and listen live to the live show. The other thing I want you to do is hopefully subscribe down below, please. Make sure you subscribe to this video series that we're doing from the Kate Daly Show, because there's a lot of really pertinent information that you really need to understand what's going on today. And, you know, there's carefully laid plans. And I want to point this out. I know that this was on Zero Hedge, and the Postal Service is very, very busy. The Postal Service, number one, endorsed a candidate for president. That's like the NSA saying, we'd like this particular candidate, or the Department of Health saying, we would like this particular candidate. Yeah, the Postal Service, why are they endorsing? And when they're in charge of mail-in voting, there's a problem with endorsing a candidate, isn't there? Ouch. Here's the other thing. February 7th, which was the day before all the impeachment nonsense ended, okay, then the media ramped up the COVID narrative, the COVID pandemic. February 7th was the day before all of that started happening in America. And what was interesting was the USPS filed this patent for a new blockchain secure system of voting. Ooh, ouch. Now, that's a problem in of itself, because they are declaring and happened to do this before everything came out with this mystery illness that nobody knew anything about. Nobody knew what the numbers were going to be. It could have been nothing. And it is nothing. But they could have made it into nothing, like with Ebola and all the other Zika, all the other ones I've covered on the air, right? So what was interesting about this was the fact that they did this February 7th, and they issued this. They wanted this patent for this new system of voting on blockchain, because they're going digital. Everything's about to go digital. In fact, in the first part of the $1 trillion BS bill that they did, they actually put in a whole section for digital currency involving the post office, curiously enough, involving the post office and $20 million that they wanted to give the post offices in America to have machines in which we would all be issued our $1,200 hush money, right? Hush, be quiet. Here's $1,200. Forget that you're locked down and your business is done. You know, you take the $1,200. Well, they wanted that money to be issued on cards that you would go redeem at these machines at the post office, and they wanted to give $20 million for those machines. Kind of interesting. So I think the post office is going to play a bigger role in some things than I think that we think it is. At the same time, you've got all these leftists like Taylor Swift. I don't know about you, but I don't go to my news from Taylor Swift. Taylor, whatever her name is, or LeBron James. Thanks. But they're out there saying that Trump is trying to dismantle the post office, and nothing could be further from the truth. That's actually not happening. But they're trying to put it out there so that they can create this theory that that Trump is taking down mailboxes. It's absolutely untrue. If anything, the people that they support in office are the very, very ones that are trying to co-opt voting and get it into such a fraudulent manner and fraudulent way that to create such a disruption in our voting system. We've had fraud before. About 30%, 35% of the election, they could fraudulently put in the candidate they wanted if they thought the people would believe it. Okay? That was the most important part. They still wanted this to work where the people thought that they could actually make a huge difference. And so they could only come in 30, 35% and fraudulently put their candidate in. And I think that's why they had to go with Trump instead of Hillary in the last election, was because they knew that people weren't going to buy it. They were green screening crowds in, right? So they knew people weren't going to buy that. So they had to make sure, and if they're going to fraudulently put down an election, well, if people are showing up to see that candidate, how are they going to do that in large numbers like they were Trump? So now we have the blockchain. Now we have this system of that they're trying to impose on us, and this mail-in voting. If you can go to the store with a mask on because they say that that's what saves America, right? And the social distancing. If you can go to the stores, dine in a restaurant, and also you can shop, right? Do everything outside, right? Why can't you wear a mask and social distance to vote then? Oh, I know, logic. Logic's pesky. You know why? It's the same argument as why rioters can go out without masks and they don't catch anything, but people that go to church can't. Same kind of logic used, but they think that they can float this on the American people and that somehow it's going to work. So they're trying to make you believe that we need a mail-in voting system for president and in all of our elections. And the states started ramping up on this early. And a friend said, we've had voting like this for 22 years in Oregon, mail-in voting. And guess what? The whole state got co-opted by a bunch of liberal progressives. Because that's what fraud can do. See, when you have mail-in voting, it's really easy to allow the fraud to take over, and then no one's really sure, right? And they call an election early before all the results come in. It's just people get impatient because we're used to having the election results at a certain time, right? A final count, so to speak. So when we did this over a computer, we had to go in and do it in person. People took the election results like, okay, we're in an honest election. Now, keep in mind, they still could fraudulently put in a candidate and sway 35% of that election. But they couldn't do it if all the people were showing up and people knew other people were showing up in person. Mail-in is a totally different animal. My son got a ballot when he turned 16, right after he turned 16 for the following year, because he went and applied for a driver's license. And they gave him a ballot to vote. He should have never had a ballot. He wasn't of age yet. But I could have filled that ballot in and sent it in, right? And I could have had another vote cast for my favorite candidate. See, it's just so fraudulent. And I hope people are realizing that with the USPS doing the things that they're doing, just really look and see why they're pushing this when there's no reason. If they say masks are saving us and saving America from the pandemic, then, of course, we should be able to go and vote. There's no reason not to. But I do feel like a lockdown is coming for October, November, December, and possibly January. And this is how they would call the need for mail-in voting. They're going to have some vehicle as to why we have to do it this way. And the only way they can do that is if they truly lock down America and have Americans believing that all their flu is COVID. That's basically what's going to happen. The other thing is this. We need to really keep and understand what America is about. There's a reason that people come to this country, and it was for the freedom that we have here. I went through journals in the early 1800s, and it was interesting that in the journals it said that when they came to this country, they were writing home and they were telling people, like in Ireland and all the places that they came from, that they truly came here and that you could have a chance here. And yeah, weather might get in your way and destroy your crops and this and that could happen. But you got a chance at a different future rather than getting the future you were dealt. Okay? I was watching a movie from, I think it was from like the 1700s, and there was a big reason why the girl in the movie couldn't be with the boy in the movie because they were from different classes. And back in the day, the different classes meant that you could not jump a class. You could not go from the poverty class or the working man class into the class that made a good amount of money because there was no option. There was no way to do that. That's why in all the movies from an older time period, you're going to see that the whole plot of the movie is jumping class, right? To be with somebody like a love interest and so forth, or somebody tries to become part of another group of people. But back in the day, you couldn't do that. This is what made America really special, was that when you came here, you had a chance to develop your own dream, whatever that dream was. You had to deal with obstacles. You had to deal with all these things. But you had this incredible way to jump class, right? To jump a certain class that you were in and make a different life for yourself. A person could come over here as an immigrant and become a millionaire, right? This is how it worked. And so when we talk about America and we talk about all the people that come here, they are trying to change us from within. They are trying to have all of these, or I should say, all of these communists are in public office. You know, today Trump said, Biden was the Trojan horse for socialism. And in so many ways, that's very true, but so many along the way have been already for the last 100 years. And we've been dealing with this for a long time. In fact, we have more communists in our that believe in the communist system than ever before in our history of America in politics today. And they're truly running things. And the way you can notice that is when all your freedom was being taken all year long, did either party stand up for you? Did either party talk about freedom? Did either party talk about restoring the liberty or the Constitution? Or did they all support the taking of your liberty in all the different states, whether they worked for the governor of your state, the governor of your state, or whether they were your hometown mayor? They were all working to take your liberty, not help you restore your liberty, never even bringing it up in conversation. That's a problem. So I just wanted to let you know that not only Biden is the Trojan horse for this, it has been the Trojan horse for a very, very long time. And all these measures that they're taking, like the Postal Service and all, are to gear us towards a system where it is completely controlled, where fraudulent outcomes are the norm, where even beyond just the voter fraud that we've already had with the GEM system of software being enacted in the last 2 decades in all the different states, we also now have a very visual representation of that, and more so in mail-in voting. That's a communist country that controls the vote, okay? And so when they keep talking about our democratic process, it isn't a democratic process. It's a republic built on a democratic process. So the only level of democratic process you have is in the lower level of the cities casting a vote for the representation of their vote, for that person, now the elected person, to go represent them. This is what makes us a republic, is that we are not a mob rule democratic society where everything is done by the majority. We vote in the people at this level of the citizenry. You have the person you vote in for Congress and your mayors and all of these people, right? And then they become your elected voice for you. This is why it's not majority rule. This is why establishing and keeping our republic is so important. And stop calling it a democratic process. A democratic process without the use of the word republic just means mob rule. We aren't that. And we have to start restoring our republic in order to get the fraud to disappear, in order to get the ways and means for them to do that to disappear. And let me tell you, both sides of the aisle are in on this. Both sides. Don't let them fool you. This is a two-sided, behind-the-scenes attempt at a coup in America right now in taking over the presidency completely, as they have in the past 100 years, but this time taking it and pulling it in directions that even the person now that crosses the ocean to get here might as well just get in that boat and go right on back, because they're going to get the same thing they just escaped from in America if we don't start changing this and we don't start standing up and understanding. Today, they said Biden represented a unified country, whereas Trump represented a country torn apart. That's not true. In fact, they don't call for an educated country. They don't call for a country that knows the truth. They don't call for a country other than unified in propaganda. Why? Because the media has been unified in propaganda. The government's been unified in propaganda behind the scenes. And this is the kind of unification they want. They want to put a boot on your throat and stomp you into, you will believe the messaging. And that's what's going to unify America. It's the propaganda that's going to unify America. And so this is what they truly want at the helm of what they're asking for right now. Keep that in mind. Keep in mind what the true goals are here. And go to katedalleyradio.com for more on this. We speak in depth on all these issues all the time on the show daily, 3 hours a day. And I appreciate you subscribing below and putting your comments below. I love your comments. Thank you for those. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye, guys. Kate Daly Show.